rise to have a seat? Thank you, sir. Welcome, everyone, to our last Board of Visitors meeting for this academic year. It's a little bittersweet. The academic year comes to a close with many successes, led first and foremost by our students, our student athletes, but also by our faculty members. We have had a lot of faculty recognitions throughout this calendar year, well-deserved, and Dr. John White is our most recent. And I ran into him at the grocery store the other day with his two little girls, and they were just so sweet. And he said, "This is the rector of the Board of Visitors," and I kind of looked at him, and he said, "She works with Mrs. Julia. They run the school, and they run it home." So. But thank you all for being here. To the gallery again, many of you were here in committee meetings this morning, but thank you for the heavy lift that you've done all academic year. We are a student-first institution, but that cannot happen without all of the work that you do both on campus, at home, in your free time, taking time away from your families. So thank you very much. I would like to recognize some of our esteemed guests that are here with us today. First, he is maybe a little bit of a commodity to some of you, but he is well known to most of us, and that happens to be Chris Inzarella. Chris has led the Alumni Society Board for probably since he graduated, I think. And we're going to hear some remarks from Chris, but Chris flew in today from Connecticut to be with us and present a report, and we are very grateful for that, and we're very grateful for everything that you did over commencement weekend. So Chris, thank you. No stranger to the rest of us, Dr. Fuaka, welcome back to the Faculty Senate President seat. We are so glad that your colleagues have recognized everything that you have done and put you back in that position. We will hear more from Brian later, but Brian has been very instrumental in the work that we are trying to do to form additional collaboration with the faculty. And thank you, Brian, for taking that leadership role as well. Kate Bennett has a new seat at the table. We all got to meet Kate last meeting, but she is our new SGA president. Kate is going to also deliver a report, but she is sitting on the Title IX Review Committee as well. So Kate is pulling a heavy lift for the university, and we thank you for that, and we welcome her. Terry McKnight could not be with us today in person, so she is on the telephone. Terry, you can hear us okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Thank you. One special recognition that we'd like to do today is that a lot of events around campus, we heard in finance that we are an event-centric university. We have a lot of events, and those events could not happen without food and beverage. And that food and beverage is driven by Chef Erica. And Chef Erica and her team are the backbone behind all of the special events that occur across campus. We throw events for students, for donors, for our faculty, for our staff, for the board. We eat better, as Judy says, than in most restaurants across Newport News. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Best restaurant on the peninsula.
Say Virginia.
So we'd like to recognize Chef Erica and your team. Thank you for everything that you all do. You spend nights and weekends here at various events, and we appreciate all that you do. So, would you like to introduce your team very briefly?
Sure. So, gosh, I'm start here. Fred Knox, he is our first cook. And Jay Taylor, my right hand / everybody thinks we're sisters. Dynamic duo in the office. Anna Rule. We have Rachel and Ciola, and Jason, as you know, who has been here as long as, almost the same amount of time, and Mark, and Matt Wilson, my sous chef, who does an amazing job. So thank you for recognizing us, and thank you for enjoying our food.
business is to appoint our student representative. Again, Kate joined us last meeting, and she's here at the table today, but we do have to take formal actions. So is there a motion to appoint Kate Bennett, Student Government Association President for 2023-2024 as a non-voting advisory student representative to the Board of Visitors?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Welcome, officially. Okay, has everyone had a chance to review the board meeting minutes from April 14th?
Yes.
Are there any revisions, discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved as presented. Madam President, would you like to give your report?
I would love to. Thank you. Well, another academic year is in the record books, and on May 13, commencement, it was a delightful honor to join Lindsay and Quentin and a rotating cast of deans, and even one overjoyed father who happens to be seated at this table, one Steve Cast, as we put on the elegant regalia of the Academy. And over the balance of the better part of the day, we celebrated with more than 1,100 Christopher Newport captains who walked across that stage to become newly minted graduates and captains for life, and it was incredible. We saw it all that day. Unbridled joy, probably a little relief from families and friends working hard to snap that perfect diploma shot. And then there was the 3-year-old girl who shouted, "Yay, Mommy!" And her sweet mom proudly collected her degree with tears in her eyes, and hers were not the only eyes with tears in them. A few of our stylish lady captains who perhaps should have given a little more thought to those 4-inch heels and a dress rehearsal before they came to the stage, and our enthusiastic student athletes and fraternities who cheered their teammates and pals across the stage, and whose enthusiasm just strangely grew as the day wore on, as if fueled by some magic potion. In the deeply moving moments when Kevin Hughes would quietly step to the podium, to the great surprise of a handful of unaware captains, and announce that they had been chosen for the highest honors given for extraordinary service during their years on this campus. They are servant leaders indeed. For me, the most touching and frankly funny moments that happened repeatedly were when our smiling, smart, energetic young women and men would shake our hands and grasp that diploma case with great pride, turn and smile for their families, and then turn to me and try to give the diploma back. It was hilarious, and it happened over and over. Their good manners prevailed even in that milestone moment in their lives, and I assured each of them that they needed to take that with them and that somebody had paid for it. And I suspect that Lindsay and Quentin would agree it was just marvelous and such a glorious celebration of all that we're about and all that we do and all that those incredible young people have achieved during their years. So to everybody on campus who poured time and care and hours of energy and planning to make that day and the days of events that led up to it powerful and meaningful and beautiful, we thank you. So today we're going to talk about many successes that we've enjoyed and a few hurdles that still are ahead as we sprint to the finish of this year. We have a budget to adopt. We have a General Assembly that's not likely to reconvene until July, well after our budget plans must be in place. So we have to move into a new fiscal year expecting to make pretty difficult cuts, some of which will indeed change how we look and how we do what we do. But we have a wonderful class of incoming freshmen for the fall of 2023. Admission did it again. They brought in a class of over 1,200. May 2 brought the good news that we all hoped to hear. More on that in the Student Life report, and you will hear more about the emerging characteristics of that incoming class, as well as the triumphs and challenges that were part of life for all of our students as they close out the academic year. In athletics, next week, the final standings will be released for the Learfield Directors Cup, the national metric used to evaluate the overall competitive success of Division III NCAA institutions' athletics programs. We thought we would land in the top 15, but friends, for the very first time in our history, we're likely to be in the top 10. The company we will keep on that landscape includes Tufts, MIT, Johns Hopkins, Washington University, and the Stevens Institute of Technology. 17 of CNU's 21 NCAA sports competed in championships during this academic year. That's an all-time high. And not for nothing, on Monday, our national champion men's basketball team has been invited to the White House to join the other national champions in all sports across all 3 divisions in the NCAA College Athlete Celebration Day. This has been quite a year. The big benefit of being part of our current C2C conference was enabling our students to compete on a national platform, and they've taken that platform by storm. But the other institutions I just noted have endowments with a few more zeros at the end of their current values than ours has. So resourcing our championship programs for our student athletes to keep on winning in the classrooms and in competition is our challenge. The new administrative building grows more and more elegant every day, and we look forward to moving in sometime this fall. The arts have had a banner year as well. Of the top 10 largest audiences ever in Ferguson Center history, 5 occurred in this academic year. And new and renewed sponsorship support is at an all-time high. The Torgler Center has now been open to the public for a whopping 19 months, and in that time, we've already welcomed 26,000 people to this campus and through their doors. Private support has been incredibly generous and positioned the Torgler to pursue and secure truly, really world-class exhibits, even as a toddler in the Arts Center world. As we move into the summer, our study abroad numbers are within a whisper of returning to where we were pre-COVID, and alumni, parents, and friends have rallied once again with their support for all facets of life here. Even with a couple of weeks to go in the fiscal year, the news is good. When we launched into this interim year together, we all knew it was going to be different. We knew we were going to be facing challenges, feeling growing pains, and making it up as we go. And years like that are hard, which is why the goal for this year was to just make it through. To make it through the growing pains, to work through the awkward parts of change, to learn to stand on our own 2 feet so that come July 1, we'd be our very best. My personal goal this year was to make it through, but to make it through and still have people speaking to me. One of our most generous donors years ago said that there are friends who are family and family who are friends, and she was right. This place, our people, and our story, you are personal to me, and this is family. To do this job this year with this group of people, this family, has been the gift of a lifetime that I never saw coming. In the last 4 years, our senior team at this university have had to weather major change over and over. Think pandemic, and then retirements of longtime treasured leaders, and then sabbatical of our transformative president, and his wife's scary illness, and then his retirement announcement, and then his retirement, and then this year, the in-between. And it's hard when a member of your family steps out into a different role. It changes the pace, the perspective, and it affects the dynamic. But families hold firm and they hold tight. And it has been the most extraordinary thing to experience how this family has stepped out and up together. You made this a year that we didn't just get through, but a year we've lived and cared and learned through every step of the way. Because frankly, the Christopher Newport story is a story of change. It's a story of people who aren't afraid to push boundaries, test limits, to become something better. It's a story that tells time and again that the people of Christopher Newport University never settle for just getting through anything. They show up every day and they choose to be and produce the very best. And this past year has afforded me a front row seat to that story, to watch each person in this room and across this campus, every member of this family prove that that is just how we do things here. A few weeks ago, Jennifer Latour and I made our way over to the Torgler Center on a rather drippy spring day. Mary and George Torgler were here for a few days of visits, and Mary was excited to join in on a sculpting class with a group of homeschool students before she and George joined us for a little lunch visit. So when we entered the Torgler, Executive Director Holly Coons met us with a rather delighted smile on her face and said that Mary was still quite wrapped up in her clay sculpting with the class, so we might want to wander into the classroom and take a look, and we did. The class was, I don't know, Jennifer, 12 kids maybe, and they were all fully engaged in their work. And their charge was this: to create a clay bookend, one that looks like a little triangular stage actually, that captured the essence of their favorite story. The artists were of varied ages and physical capabilities. It was a beautiful room filled with all kinds of hearts and minds and bodies. So Jennifer and I started wandering around the room asking artists about their work. One little guy was hard at work on his Star Wars depiction. One young lady was intent on presenting a dog story, and that's just kind of the most I got from that one. Next was Mary Torgler, who was deep into her work featuring the Velveteen Rabbit, but was pretty irritated with George, who apparently pushed for some tree to be added to the landscape. The next artist informed me that her story was the story in her head. Go girl. And next, well, this young female sculptor paused and she smiled and she said that her story was about her family because family is the best story. And she's right. What an honor to be part of this family, to be plopped in this chair at this table during this chapter of our story. I cannot wait to sit in a new chair at Bill Kelly's table with this family for our next chapter. And thank you for still speaking to me in the end. Thank you.
Next up on the agenda, we will go ahead and proceed with committee reports, the first being Finance and Facilities. Bobby, would you like to give your report?
Yes, thank you. Let me begin with this personal privilege to thank Adelia for the inspiration that she's given to all of us the last year. It's been a privilege to work with you and for you, and we all thank you. I also thank you, and Amy and Lindsay, for the reception that you gave us retiring board members last night. It was a delightful time of fellowship, and I thank you for the chair. And I'm sorry that Terry couldn't be with us, but Steve and I enjoyed the family friendship that you've always extended to us. And it's been a great privilege and a high honor for me to be on this board and to participate in the mission and the good work of this university for the past 8 years. So thank you. As many of you heard earlier today, the Committee on Finance and Facilities, the room is full, received updates on the 2023 General Assembly, on capital projects, and on small women and minority-owned businesses, the SWAM report. And Jennifer Latour presented the proposed fiscal year 24 operating budget. These materials can be found in section 6 of your board docs. Tom Kramer reported that since the board's last meeting, there had been no movement on the state's budget, which is so essential to the fees and tuition of our students. They have been concerned, that is the General Assembly, have been concerned with the debt ceiling debate and the primaries that will not be resolved until June 20th. It may be that we will see something regarding the state budget in early to mid-July. Since there is already a spending plan in place for the next year, there's been no pressure on their part to finish, and the special session is not currently scheduled, but we do continue to hope that additional appropriations can come forth from either a new session or a new budget. Jennifer Latour then walked us through her 19 pages of complex financial
Committee meeting early.
financial analysis of our operating budget. And it was good that we all had that explanation. We needed it. And there are just a few things in the budget that I want to go over with you, and then we'll vote on a resolution. The university's fiscal year 2024 operating budget is $187.8 million and is based on a projected full-time equivalent enrollment of 4,350 students. And it was noted that there has been a 10% loss in students in the last 5 years since COVID. And that loss of students is having an impact, again, on the budget and on our ability to maintain the fees and cost for the students. The net increased revenues for fiscal year 2024 are primarily from the increased state support for a 5% increase in salaries. As you remember, the General Assembly has been increasing the salaries, but they have not been increasing their allocations to the university to pay for those salaries. So that was an additional $1 million. That is, no, I'm sorry. And that is in addition to an additional $1 million in need-based financial aid, as well as from comprehensive room and other student fees, and increased unrestricted private funds from our foundations. The budget that is in those 19 pages is a budget of expenditures of money we receive from the state. It does not include the money we receive from the foundations, the Real Estate Foundation, the Education Foundation, Ferguson Foundation, and in fact, with all those other funds, the amount of expenditures is about $380 million instead of 187. In April, we approved a 4.9% increase in tuition and other rate changes that resulted in an overall blended increase for in-state students of 4.7%. The tuition and fee resolution included the caveat that the tuition rates would be revisited should the state amend its 2022-24 biennial budget with sufficient additional resources allocated to the university. The budget also incorporates $6 million in university savings, including eliminating 26 vacant positions and freezing up to 10 faculty positions. Other new expenditures include utility increases, information technology needs, additional programming to support our top business schools, supported by course fees, community captains, and mental health counseling. And on page 2 of the executive summary, there's a long list of the cuts in the budget that the faculty and staff have participated in agreeing to so that we can make this budget. And with that report, on behalf of the Committee on Finance and Facilities, I bring forward the recommendation that we approve Resolution 1 for the fiscal year 2024 operating budget. You'll find that in your board books. And it is a 5-page resolution that I will not read in single space.
Thank you, sir.
But I will ask the director present that to you for a vote. It comes from the committee, and we ask that you present that, Madam Rector.
Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion or any questions for Bobby? Hearing none, this is coming out of committee, so we don't need a second. So all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 1 is approved as presented. Bobby, thank you very much.
I'm not done.
I know. Thank you. We will let you have the remaining time.
Thank you. Thank you. The Vice President Christine Ledford also provided us with an update on our capital projects. The primary one is the Science Center. We received the funding authorized from the state that's needed to move the project forward from the Integrated Science Center Phase 3. However, the funding approved is about $5 million short of our projected cost. Christine's team is working with the architect and the general contractor on cost-cutting measures. It's important, however, that we maintain the integrity of the design that is appropriate for our campus and maintain the state-of-the-art teaching facility that was intended at the outset of this project. With that being said, Christine advised, in consultation with our Chief Financial Officer, Jennifer, that there may be a need.
I found this on the web.
Christine, Judy found your 5 million on the
Back up.
Some sort of.
As a predicate for this last sentence of my report, as you know, we have, it's also in the expenses and revenue report. We have about $29 million in our reserve accounts, of which 4.6 million is designated as a reserve for capital projects. And so with that predicate in mind, Christine advised that in consultation with our Chief Financial Officer, Jennifer, there may be a need to utilize funds from that capital reserve fund for this construction project. But they are trying to use every best effort they can to close the gap between the $90 million that it's going to cost and the $85 million that the state allocated. And so we're hopeful that there will be minimal amount of invasion of the reserve, but that's what the reserve is there for, is to help in capital projects like this. So with that, simply advice about what is going on with the science building. That's the status of it. It is important that we get this science building built so that we can begin to have classes there in the summer, I think it's 2025, is that right? 2025. And that, so we don't want to have any delays in construction. And this was a major allocation that the General Assembly provided to the university in response to the fact that we have tripled the graduates in sciences in just the past 7 or 8 years. And the growth of that segment of our academic program and of our students' interest demands that this science building be built. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby, and thank you for your work again on the budget, and thank you for your work throughout the year over on finance. It was a difficult year for the finance committee, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Christine, thank you for everything that you do on all of the capital projects. You are on top of it, you are constantly managing it, but also fiscally checking to make sure that we are doing everything we need to do and keeping it in line, and so we thank you for those efforts. And Jennifer, we thanked you today in finance, but that finance and budget report was superior to any that many of us have probably seen in our own industries, our careers, and on other boards. So thank you, Dr. Acker. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to operations, audit, and risk. Kelly is going to give us the report today. So Kelly?
Bear with me, I'm standing in for Terry today. Thank you, Madam Rector. The committee has 2 resolutions to come before the board that I will present at the end of my report. And I will warn you, this is 4 pages long, so get used to my voice.
Big font.
Yes. The Committee on Operations, Audit, and Risk received the draft audit report from the Auditor of Public Accounts on the university's financial statements for the last year, which ended on June 30th, 2022. I am pleased to report that the APA will issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best result that you can receive, as it means it's a clean audit. The state auditors also found no indications of fraud transactions or illegal acts, They also stated there were no disagreements with management about auditing, accounting, or disclosure matters, and the committee did have a session with them without staff involved. However, while the auditors did not identify any material weaknesses, they issued 3 findings of significant deficiencies. For those in the audit world, there's 2 levels of findings. There could be a significant deficiency, and then there's a material weakness. Significant deficiencies are not as stringent. So there were significant deficiencies that were noted in the internal controls in instance of non-compliance. They're not repeat findings, which is really important to make note. The full APA can be found in your board docs, section 7C, the executive content. I'll give you the highlights below, so be sure to read the full report if you want details. The first significant deficiency was improve operating system security to ensure the university maintains the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of sensitive and mission-critical data. The university needs to implement certain security controls for the server operating system supporting the financial system of record in accordance with the Commonwealth's Information Security Standard SEC 501. In order to comply with this finding, the university will need to procure software to implement additional controls and configurations related to change management, audit and accountability to protect the server operating system. This is included in the budget that we have approved. The second finding, improve database audit logging and monitoring to ensure the university maintains confidentiality, integrity, and availability of sensitive and mission-critical data. The university needs to implement certain audit logging and monitoring safeguards for the database supporting the financial system of record in accordance with the security standard. As I stated in the first finding, the university will need to procure additional software to fully implement the audit logging and controls for the financial system database to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of sensitive mission control critical data. That's a lot of words. Okay. And the last finding, not related to IT, improve internal controls over terminated employees. The university needs to improve internal controls over terminated employees to ensure leave payouts are accurate and follow established procedures by removing terminated employee access and collecting university equipment within 3 business days of termination. The university is already underway with implementing additional internal controls over terminated employees, and human resources will ensure clear communication and procedures for terminated employees' access and collection of the university equipment are followed. Just to note, the first 2 are IT related, so as part of the discussion, we asked about just comparability with other universities, and we found that this is something that's relatively normal since 2 of the 3 are IT related. I do believe there is a technology fee that's going to be covering the cost of these additional softwares so that we can become compliant. All right. We then received an update from Jennifer Latour on 2 important human resource initiatives. First, Jennifer provided the committee with an update on the Administrative Professional Faculty Compensation Study and an overview of the history of the Strategic Compensation Initiative, which started in 2021. Human Resources has concluded their work with an outside compensation consultant on the review of AP salaries. The findings of the survey results in 109 employees receiving an adjustment. This is 44% of the staff and a total cost to the university of $659,000, which has been built into the FY24 budget, which we had presented earlier. Second, Jennifer provided an update on the changes to the university-sponsored retirement plans that will be effective January 1st, 2024. These changes are a result of the Secure Act 2.0. Other key elements of the plan that were updated include changes to the minimum required distribution age, the ability to allow participants to self-certify hardship distributions, permits hardship distributions from elective deferral contribution, increases the dollar limits for mandatory cash outs of small accounts at termination, removes CARES Act provisions that are no longer effective, and updates the plans to conform with IRS language. An amendment was also made to the university cash match plan to include updating the minimum distribution age and clarifies that a simple IRA account is eligible for retirement plan rollover purposes. Do I still have everyone?
There's a quiz at the end.
That's
a quiz at the end.
Okay, next, Wendy Murray, our information security officer, gave us her annual information security report. For those who were on the board last year, you'll recall that one of the APA findings in last year's report was that we had not implemented all cybersecurity requirements of the GLBA. Since then, IT has contracted with Campus Guard, a trusted vendor specializing in cybersecurity and compliance, and conducted a GLBA assessment the week of February 6, 2023. The assessment resulted in several observations surrounding the storage and transmission of consumer financial information, employee awareness and training, data retention, application development, and log monitoring. The Information Security Officer and Interim Chief Information Officer have identified the needed resources to address these identified items. As you all may recall from the April meeting, the increase in the technology fee that we approved is going to be able to carry most of these resources. Okay, last but not least, we had our internal audit report. Faith presented an annual risk assessment and risk-based audit plan for FY24. This plan was approved by the committee and senior management input was solicited regarding the proposed internal audit plan before being presented to the committee. The StarRes software application audit is complete and the report is in your board materials. There are 8 open audit points targeted for completion by January 15th, 2024. The student accounts audit is still in the report writing phase. The faculty recruitment audit follow-up check-in meetings have been completed with the individual responsible for management action plan items. 3 points have been closed and 13 points targeted for completion by September 30th, 2023. The information technology risk assessment practices have been formalized. The disaster recovery audit points are complete. There is 1 remaining lab safety audit report that's targeted for completion on June 30th, 2023. 6 Maxient audit points were closed and 2 points targeted for completion by December 1st, 2023. Lastly, Faith reported that this fall, the quality assurance review self-assessment was performed by the audit director with validation by a qualified, independent, external review team. The purpose of this is to evaluate the internal audit activities' conformance with the IIA standards and the Code of Ethics. An external assessment is required at least once every 5 years, and the last review was completed in January of 2019. Thanks for your patience. Now for the resolutions. Resolution 2 can be found in section 7D. This resolution awards emeritus status to the administrative professional employees who serve the university with distinction and retire with 10 or more years of service. This mirrors the emeritus status that instructional faculty may receive at retirement. Madam Rector, I present this to the board for action.
Thank you, Kelly. Before we present this to the board, I'd like to do a little bit of a special recognition and ask this person to speak to this resolution. This person has been with the university. He is in his 25th year. He is in his 45th year of service to the Commonwealth of Virginia. There is no person on this campus who has touched so many hearts and minds across the student body, faculty and staff, and the administration as Dr. Bob Colvin. Dr. Bob Colvin has served as a vice provost. He was a partner in crime with Paul Tribble in the transition that made this university what it is today. He was the founding chair of the Department of Leadership and American Studies. He co-authored much of the original curriculum in leadership studies. He served on our budget advisory committee for a decade. And perhaps lesser known to us is his substantial service to the Commonwealth of Virginia. He served as a deputy cabinet secretary,
He served on the State Crime Commission. He was the commissioner of the Virginia Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, and he headed Virginia's Office of Consumer Affairs. He's also been a county law enforcement officer, a patrol supervisor, a detective, and a chief. And what most of you don't know is he is an FAA licensed airplane pilot. He's the father of a captain for life. His wife Tien is on our faculty. And more importantly, he's quite frankly one of the best people that any of us will ever meet in our entire lives. And Dr. Bob, we thank you for your service to this institution and to the Commonwealth. And I'd like for you to take a few minutes to talk about how important this award is to faculty and to staff, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was very kind of you. It proves I cannot hold it up. Fairly successfully, anyway. That was very sweet, very kind. That means a lot to be here with friends and for you to do that. Thank you. For a number of years, for many years, of course, when faculty retire with 10 or more years of service and have served with distinction, they can be given emeritus status. Now, emeritus status means that the university doesn't want to discontinue the relationship. They want to continue that relationship. And it comes with certain benefits. You get a special ID as an emeritus. You get discounts to athletic events in Ferguson Center. You get a free parking pass. So you'll be encouraged to come back to campus. And it's just a way of saying thank you and that we don't want to discontinue the relationship. The handbook was changed to provide that same opportunity for the folks on this campus who are administrative professional faculty, who have served this campus in so many very important ways. So with the handbook change, vice presidents may nominate retirees who served with distinction, who retired, and who had 10 or more years of service as administrative professional faculty. So the various vice presidents did their work. They made a recommendation to President Thompson. President Thompson has presented this as to the board. The committees reviewed it. And this is the inaugural. This is the first one. And there are 4 people listed in this resolution. And you may know some of them. Bill Brower, Pat McDermott, Beverly Muller, and Cindy Perry. So this will give them administrative professional faculty emeritus status and all of the benefits that I just articulated. So, Madam Rector, this is before the board. Only the board can do this.
Thank you, Dr. Bob, and thank you for your service as the Chief of Staff. This resolution does come out of committee, so we don't need a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. You have one more resolution, ma'am?
Resolution 3 can be found in section 7F. The resolution is the amendments to the university's retirement plans that I described earlier. Madam Rector, I present this to the board for action.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? This also comes out of committee, so we don't need a second. All in favor of approving resolution 3 as presented, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Kelly, thank you very much. It is a hard task to deliver a 4-page report on audit. Such enthusiasm. But you and Terry have mastered this, so thank you very much. Our next committee report is Academic Affairs by Steve Gass.
Thank you, Madam Rector, and I believe the precedent has been set that by Mr. Hatton that if you're an outgoing Board of Visitors member and a committee chair, that you get unlimited amount of time.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to thank Adelia and all the faculty that allowed Alice and I the privilege of being able to be on stage with Libby and give her degree. And I also want to correct the rumor that I was assaulting Allison on stage in front of everyone. When we were walking up, it was a surprise to our Libby, and I told Allison, you get on one side and I get on the other, and we'll take the picture. And I didn't want to overextend our privilege and be the people that were on the stage for 3 minutes. So when we get up there, Allison, my wife, moves right to the middle and goes full vogue for the camera. And Libby was trying to get in the middle, and so I was moving Allison over, and there's a picture that appears that I'm assaulting my wife. But it's not true. Anyone who knows Allison knows that I would not be walking or coherent. So what an incredible privilege, and it meant so much to Libby, so thank you guys for that. We had a wonderful academic affairs committee today, and our provost provided some year-end summary information, which I think is worthy of going over some of this. Our faculty and research grants and other grants have been awarded over $3.6 million this academic year, which I think is very significant, and I know that is growing. For the first time in CNU history, as we talked last time, I believe 2 of our professors won the competitive and prestigious Chev Outstanding Faculty Award. And of course, that was Dr. Maranova and Dr. Cartwright. And by the way, Dr. Cartwright at the Latin Honors Program did an incredible job delivering remarks that prompted some action from me and some others within this community. So we really do have an incredibly strong faculty that are award-winning. It was reported that we submitted a very strong 5th-year report to SACS COC accreditation of the university, and we expect to hear back from them in late June. And this is a huge undertaking for the entire university community, and I believe that is an understatement. I know how much work goes into that, and so many people have worked very hard. So we look forward to hearing back in late June. The Center for Crime, Equity, and Justice Research and Policy, the Center for American Studies, the Wasson Center for Civic Leadership, and the Reich Center for Human Rights and Conflict Resolution hosted 24 conferences or speakers on campus that brought thousands of people to our university. And I bet you many of them had not been here before, so well done, and it's sort of providing a wonderful identity and place within our community that people come to gather. So thank you very much for all of that. The Center for Community Engagement logged 60,000 student engagement hours and hosted its 15th annual Food for Thought campaign, which brought in 70,000 pounds of food. How wonderful is that? 60,000 hours, that's incredibly impactful. Study abroad is slowly getting back to its pre-COVID numbers, with 300 students studying abroad this year in 37 countries and 6 continents. Past is Prologue is a history podcast that provides the public with the background behind the day's headlines and offers much needed context to the understanding the significance of current events that people observe around them. And this podcast here started in March, and so far they've had listeners in 32 countries and 36 states, which I think is outstanding. We did review some of the proposed budget cuts and the thought behind those, and we had some really good discussion about that, and we appreciated hearing the thought behind all those budget cuts and how they are going to happen. They're tough. We understand how tough they are, and some of them have an impact, but the explanations of all was really, really good. And I believe that is the end of my report, and I believe there's a resolution that will be addressed in closed session number 4.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Steve?
And it wasn't unlimited because I have to go to the bathroom.
Well, thank you for sharing.
No, that doesn't go in minutes.
But it just went over.
Our next report comes from Student Life Leave Relived.
I don't really know what to say after the closing remarks. We too had a great committee meeting. I do believe that it might have been one of the fastest committee meetings ever, and it's proof of how fast a committee meeting can go. I want to share some freshman admission information. So the enrollment deposits continue to outpace last year. It's been 1,210 deposits. And they expect that there will be 1,150 students attending as the freshman goal. The class profile is very strong with an average GPA of 3.72 and SAT score of 1206, both of these metrics being over last year. Other noteworthy increases to share are the percentage of students of color has increased by 30%, first generation by 23%, and Christopher Newport legacies by 13%. The incoming class includes 420 new PLP freshmen with an average GPA of 4.0 and SAT score of 1,258. So quite an impressive class of freshmen. For this year, the university has conferred over 1,142 degrees to include 1,052 baccalaureate and 90 master degrees. They have an average of 3.3 GPA. The graduating class included 160 legacies, which truly speaks to the trust of the families, that the families place into Christopher Newport. The Career Center posted over 111,000 jobs and internships on their career platforms, held more than 40 individual appointments with students and alumni, and engaged with 85% of the first year students. The Community Captains Program continues to expand. Out of the 5 cohorts, 3 will be on campus this year, and this third cohort has 30% of the third cohort actually is coming to CNU in the fall, which is by far the highest that it's been. They had a recognition celebration a few weeks ago with Gabe Morgan as the keynote speaker. So this program continues to thrive all along the way. The Center for Student Success has held more than 3,500 tutoring appointments and almost 4,100 success coaching appointments, which yielded a 93% retention rate. And then in student affairs, the Counseling Center served 600 student clients with 4,225 clinical appointments throughout the year, 44 of which accompanied a mental health diagnosis. Nearly 70% of students facing suspension or dismissal cited mental health issue concerns. And then lastly, but most certainly not least, the PLP class of 23 provided almost 48,000 hours of community service with a 1.4 estimated value of their service. Christopher Newport graduates attend some of the best graduate schools such as Harvard, Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan, and have secured positions with employers like J.P. Morgan, the U.S. State Department, National Institute of Mental Health, Major League Soccer, and many, many more. So that concludes my report, just in time for Steve to come back from the restroom.
Well, thank you, Lee. As today is a day of recognition and celebration, we will recognize and celebrate that Steve and Lee gave their own reports today.
Well done.
Thank you both. Alumni Society report. Chris, please.
Thank you, Madam Rector, and thanks for your kind words at the start of the meeting. I know that all of you know Baxter well. He and I have this really good operating relationship where he'll write a narrative form to make sure that I capture everything. But then I translate it into New Yorker, which means I won't use the words y'all or magical. So if you want the narrative form, you can let me know, and Baxter and I will follow. Hands will be included, yes.
He is Italian
after all. So I know this is my first time reporting with all of you, really over the last 2 years of my term as president, and with our meetings that we have on campus for the alumni board, I try and choose my travel where I can, but I was excited to be able to be here today with all of you. We now live in Raleigh, but I was in Connecticut for work, so I did come from Connecticut this morning, which makes the drive to Raleigh feel like an hour until I make the drive. I realize it's still 3.5 hours. Yeah. I'm mentally preparing for that. But thank you all for the work that you do on behalf of our Alumni Society, our team, and then also the full population of our Alumni Society. My intent today is to just give you a few updates about some of the great work that we've been able to be a part of and offer you a little bit of detail. And if you want more, you can find me after the meeting or email Baxter. So one thing that we've really kind of defined over the last few years is we tried to get very clear about what is the purpose of our team, what is our mission, what do we aim to do. And to try and make it really simple, our focus is on creating a path to engagement for our alumni. Not just the ones that come to homecoming or the ones that participate in alumni chapters, but for all alumni who are all living different lives in different places in different ways. How can we help them all find, see, and walk their own path to staying engaged with whatever aspect of Christopher Newport means the most to them? And so as part of that, just this week we closed two key processes. One is that we had applications for new members to the board. So we sent that out across all of our stored email addresses, and we've had over 40 people apply, which is really good news because we've not seen that level of interest since before the pandemic. So it's nice to see that level of interest coming back from people wanting to make that volunteer commitment. And the other process that we had is that we're bringing back for the first time since 2019 the Alumni Awards, which used to happen annually in August to recognize those in our alumni population doing great things in their communities, in their professions, or for their alma mater. And so we're in the process of going through those nominations, and we'll plan to award those items to the recipients in August, right before orientation or a welcome week for the students. One thing that I'd like to share with all of you candidly, I know it's never a good idea to have 30 people as part of a secret, but we'll do our best. There's a new award that we've approved this year in honor of Muriel Miller. And it's a service-oriented alumni award that will become a regular part of our slate. And we'll be awarding the first one this year posthumously to the Miller family in August. They do not know that, but I wanted to share that with all of you that we thought it was a very fitting way to honor her memory. So, so those are awards and applications. Other news about alumni, we've got welcome home events coming up here in the next couple weeks. Some have already started this week. They're in 8 locations across the state of Virginia, plus the Research Triangle in North Carolina next week. The new locations that we have this year that we haven't had previously are Fredericksburg and Leesburg. We've seen an uptick in alumni in those areas, and so we've added welcome home celebrations. Just to give a little bit of context, what that means is that for students who have graduated and now become members of our alumni family, we like to welcome them home in their area where they're from and where they live, or where they may be moving to. But again, that's in 8 different locations across the Commonwealth. In our meeting in May that we had the week of commencement, we voted and approved our new executive team for the upcoming 2 years. So our board seats run on a 3-year term, but our executive leadership team, they run on a 2-year term. And so Nate Fontaine from the class of 2007 has been selected as my successor. He'll begin his term on July 1st. For those of you that don't know Nate, he's formerly the mayor of Lovettsville, Virginia, up by Loudoun County. He just completed his term as mayor this winter, which made him a prime candidate for me to convince to take the job. So he'll be stepping into that role July 1st. We're very excited, and we've got a great team that will be joining him. Speaking about our team, with this most recent decade of the 2020s, we now have 7 decades of captains. And on our team, we represent 4 of those decades. So we continue to try and expand our generational diversity because we just think it's really important that our alumni board team has and cherishes the responsibility to carry and share the story of Christopher Newport. We know that for a 2021 graduate, a 2003 graduate, and a 1973 graduate, it's a very different experience, but trying to keep members across the generations of Christopher Newport helps us carry that story and be able to share it across our population. some things that came up earlier, so this will be even shorter, which is great news for all of you, I know. It was my honor to present the Excellence in Teaching and Mentoring Award that we present to faculty on an annual basis at Latin Honors on behalf of the Alumni Society. Steve mentioned earlier that we had 2 faculty members recognized by Chev this year, Dr. Kelly Cartwright and Dr. Margarita Marinova. Kelly was our winner last year, and Dr. Marinova was our winner this year. So we feel validated that we're picking the right people because we're not intentionally, but following Chev's guidance. So this is one of our most prestigious awards for faculty. It includes a $2,500 stipend, a medallion that they get to keep as part of their academic regalia going forward. And then the current year's winner gets the privilege to speak to the Latin Honors audience the following year. And to Steve's point, I'm sure we've got it recorded somewhere. If you've not heard Dr. Cartwright's speech, she talked about the importance of words. And it was just a very beautiful sentiment that I think was a call to action for a lot of people. So I encourage you all to explore that video. I'm sure Bruce has it somewhere and can help you find it.
Check out our YouTube channel.
YouTube channel, there you go.
And she shared with me her comments, so I have it written if you would like. I don't think she would mind me sharing it with everybody.
Other awards that we are honored to sponsor and support are that we help with the Dean's Service Award selection for sponsorship and part of the interview process. So that those awards go to excellent efforts from students across their time as a captain. And so we partner with Kevin and his team to participate in the interview process and selection, and then also sponsor that award. The other gift that we like to give is on an annual basis to the senior class. We like to give a monetary gift that matches the calendar year of their graduation. So we made our $2,023 gift to this year's graduating class. Something for your budget committee. When we get to the year 100,000, it's going to start to get a little expensive. Maybe looking for some support in that area, but for now, it's $1 a year is a manageable increase. One other thing, and a true highlight for me during commencement was the opportunity to conspire with a few people at this table to surprise a woman who is tough to surprise and present Adelia with a honorary alumna recognition from the Alumni Society. And it was very special, and Adelia, we're so grateful for all that you've done and for taking care of our home during such an important time. And something that I wanted to add is that, there have been a lot of perfectly stated words about your effort and your care for this place, but I also wanted to point out some actions, which sometimes do speak a little bit louder than words. We all know the watchful eye that Paul Tribble has kept over this place for a long time, and how much, and for any of us, when we love and care about something so much, how much it's hard for us to walk away from it. And there are few people I can think of that would give Paul Tribble the ability and the confidence to be able to walk away from Christopher Newport without blinking an eye, knowing that it was in the good hands of Adelia Thompson. So thank you very much for all that you've done. Next week, we will present the charter to our new Roanoke chapter. So we now have 15 alumni chapters across regional and affinity populations. So we'll present that Roanoke chapter with their charter, and they will continue the great work that they're doing to engage people in that area of the Commonwealth. A few final things I'll share, just some key projects that over the last 2 years our team has really been able to champion on behalf of the alumni. Bill Mann, who is one of the members of our board, is also a first decader from Christopher Newport, and he's been leading some career efforts for us and has built and maintained a great partnership with the Center for Career Planning, both with their efforts with alumni and students, so that's been a really great partnership for us. We've also recently been able to build a partnership with Rob Lang and his team in admission, where we've been able to collect and share some alumni stories, and then work with them on different ways that we can leverage alumni, both on and off the board, to help support admission efforts. Another really neat project that we piloted this year and we're hoping to continue in the future is that the week after Thanksgiving, our board facilitated a very organic alumni week of service, where we have a lot to do in how we learn to log and capture the efforts, but for what we put together, we had over 30 hours of service logged during that week, where we know how important service is on this campus, and we had a conversation where we don't want that to stop being a priority when you graduate. And so we made the effort to try and connect with the alumni community and encourage them during a week where most people are shopping to find a way to also be serving and then to share that back with us. So it's something we're hoping to improve and capture more of in the future. We're also, another spoiler alert, for the fall, we are planning to recognize some of our educators across our alumni community. So as many of you are probably familiar, around August and September, you will see or hear educators who are looking for people to help them complete their Amazon shopping list to fill their classroom with materials that they need to support their students. And so what we'll be doing this fall is finding a way to recognize captain educators by helping them fill out their Amazon shopping list and getting them the supplies that they need for their classrooms. So we'll have a social media campaign to engage and recognize many captain educators. So that's just a bit of what's going on in the world of the Alumni Society. It's been a really unique 6 years. As Lindsay said, it does feel like I've been doing this too long. I served a term as president the 2 years before COVID, if there is an official before COVID, I don't know about after COVID, but Cynthia Allen White led the challenge of leading our team from 2020 to 2022, and then I've had another really privileged 2 years here with the group. For any of you, and I know many of you have, led volunteers before, that's always a fun assignment. And there's some people I just want to thank who have been a big part of that. So, from a university leadership standpoint, Adelia and Bob and Lindsay, thank you so much for the support you always provide to our alumni efforts. It's always encouraging and helpful. Kevin Hughes, Rob Lang, Bruce Bronstein have been great mentors and friends for a long time who also help shape the way that we think about alumni. Amy Dale and her team, and Baxter and his alumni team, I know it's sometimes tongue-in-cheek to say we couldn't do it without you, but physically we couldn't do it without them. So all the support that you and your teams provide is so appreciated. I just want to add a thanks to all of you and some of you around this table who I've gotten to know during my time with the Alumni Society. Strategically in my first term as president, I implemented term limits so that I had an exit strategy. So now my term will end on June 30th and I'll have nowhere else to stay. But when I graduated in 2009, which is hard to believe that this fall will be 19 years since I moved into York West as a freshman, when you're a student, you think that your 4 years is your everything. But then when you get beyond that 4 years and you realize you're an alumni much longer than you're a student, you realize that when you walk across that commencement stage, you haven't even met some of the captains that will be such a big part of your life. And so it just so happens that in my field of vision is Boris, someone who I never met until being on the Alumni Society board and has become a great friend and mentor to me. And there are many of you around this table I feel that way about. That's really the best part about being an alumni and getting to stay engaged with this board. So I'm just very grateful for that. And I want to thank you all for being a part of my captain experience, both or across my time as a student, my time as a young alum, my time now serving the board. For those of you that were my faculty members, Dr. Puaka, Dr. Colvin, thank you for not telling the truth about me to too many people.
It's not too late.
I appreciate that. And to everyone else, I just want to thank you to the Board of Visitors for being caretakers of this place and our story and all that means so much to us. So thank you for your time today. That concludes my report.
Chris, as always, thank you for a very comprehensive, robust report. But more importantly, thank you for the energy and efforts that you and the board have put into engaging our young alums. This year, we had 2 holiday parties that were hosted by recent graduates. And I mean, in the last 2 years, they got together and threw the holiday party for their chapter, which is not an inexpensive venture, I can tell you, having done it a couple of times. But really engaging that group to not just go into their next chapter and say, I'm full speed ahead, but to come back home. So thank you. Our next report is from the President's Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Regina is under the weather today, so she could not be with us, but I'm going to go ahead and give her report. And forgive me for reading, but I was not at the meeting, so I'm going to read sort of the narrative minutes. There were 2 guest presentations during the meeting. The first was Dr. Ann Mazaka-Balecki from the Department of Performing Arts. She discussed the Virginia Native Nations Higher Education Consortium. This is a statewide effort to create partnerships between higher education institutions and tribal communities. At their inaugural summit in March, they featured 9 Virginia tribes and their representatives, along with college university leaders, including Christopher Newport representatives. The second presentation was from graduating senior Sarah Poole, who shared her research exploring DEI issues in theater operations and management, and this research will be used to inform future practices for CNU's academic theater performances. Strategic planning updates were provided by Vidal Dickerson, who began with a review of the Inclusive Excellence Framework being used to guide DEI strategy. Other updates include the progress of incorporating the topic of freedom of speech and expression into orientation sessions for students, faculty, and staff, the fall 2023 implementation of training and dialogues promoting civil discourse among students, early outreach initiatives for incoming students that involve engagement from admission throughout the first semester, summer plans to develop recommendations to improve faculty recruitment strategy, and finally, the improvement of tracking and communicating diversity-related campus programming. Meetings for the 2023-24 year will be scheduled after President Kelly's arrival. The council will meet quarterly, and we all look forward to furthering our institutional work towards inclusive excellence in the upcoming year. President Thompson, do you have anything to add? This is the President's Council.
No, it was nice to have them together in person and then again virtually this spring. So that group is off and running.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And with that, we will turn to our Faculty Senate report. Brian?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As Lindsay mentioned, my name is Brian Pawaka. I'm the Faculty Senate President for the next academic year, 23-24. I'm a professor in the History Department, and I began my career here at CNU in 2005, straight out of graduate school in North Carolina. So this is, I have to admit, the only academic job I've ever had. I'm a German historian by training. I publish on the history of education, democratization, school reform, and memory. And I teach our classes in the History Department on modern Germany, modern France, World War II, the Cold War, and contemporary Europe. I've become a bit of the old man of the Senate. I've only had a short break in the last decade or so being on the Senate. And I've been the president of the Senate in the past term of 2 years, around the same time I think Chris was here last time too, so 2017 and 2019. It's an honor to be selected again to be able to represent my colleagues, and I appreciate the board for always dedicating time to the Faculty Senate President to update y'all on the events that are taking place on campus and the work of the Senate. As y'all know, graduation is now over, and we've moved into a more quiet time of the year. That lull, that sense of tranquility, however, I think is a bit deceiving. While some of my colleagues are on campus teaching classes, the rest are engaged in all sorts of other activities that support our mission. Several of my faculty friends are traveling internationally or have just returned from being overseas with students on study abroad trips, and we've heard a bit about that. I have colleagues working with students who are summer scholars. They're gaining valuable experience working with mentors, conducting research. My colleagues are working in archives in this country and internationally, locating the material they'll need for the articles and the books that they publish in the years ahead. They're flying to conferences near and far, presenting their work to others, refining their ideas, and moving forward with their research agendas. They're in labs conducting experiments and recording findings to continue their work next academic year. They're in the field, in trails, on trails, in caves, underwater, collecting data. I'm always amazed at all the places they go. So in short, my faculty colleagues are quite busy during what many, I think to use a sports term, would consider the off season. So I just want to kind of make us think a bit about that. Our Senate won't reconvene until August, and so we won't have formal recommendations, formal kind of report for you in that sense. But the Senate Executive Committee continues to meet over the summer. And so knowing kind of what we've already begun to talk about, I will share the agenda for our year next year with you at the September board meeting, but I feel confident enough in a few things to go ahead and offer a couple of general observations about the work ahead of us for next year. As you might well guess, our number one goal next year will be to work with incoming President Kelly and to help him be successful. The Senate's going to do whatever it can to help him build the relationships with our faculty, understand our work, and appreciate the value of a liberal arts education. His success is our success, and we look forward to his arrival in July. Another key goal on our agenda is going to be to address the ongoing budgetary challenges which we've all been talking about today. I know it sounds obvious, but I think we as a community have to continue to think really carefully about the things we choose to spend our precious treasure on. We, and this includes all of us, need to be good stewards of the university's resources. I'm sure I'll have more to say about this next time, as I'm sure we'll continue talking about it in the next year. Another goal the Senate will undoubtedly pursue next year is to continue building a stronger relationship with you all. I've been a senator for many years. I've been president as well. And I must say that my interactions with the board have been rather limited, brief, and sometimes carefully managed. I wager that most of my colleagues have had fewer and shorter interactions with the board, if they've had interactions at all. And that's unfortunate for a lot of reasons. The most obvious one is this: we all share the same mission of supporting CNU and providing the best education that we can for our students. And so in line with that, and in support of building a stronger relationship with the board, I'd like to take a moment to have you reflect on your views of myself and my faculty colleagues. I've heard many times some of the comments made about faculty. We can be an easy target, but I'd argue that no one on this campus is more invested in the university's success, more committed to our mission, and more dedicated to our students than my faculty colleagues who work with them inside and outside of the classroom every day. For many years, we've used the term captain for life to describe our bond with graduates. I propose that we think in the same terms about our faculty. We are the long-term stewards of the university. Faculty are captains for life as well. If I may indulge for a moment and use myself as an example, I just completed my 18th year at CNU. God willing, I'd like to see myself here for another 20 to 25 more. That means I'm less than halfway through my career. And my friends sometimes make jokes about the fact that I'll be swinging the mason at graduation in my old age. And like my colleagues, I wear a lot of hats in my daily life. For me, it's teacher scholar, senator, fraternity advisor, Phi Beta Kappa faculty member, Fulbright student program coordinator, lots and lots of things, as all my colleagues do. I also happen to be part of one of several faculty couples on campus. Some of you may know that my wife, Laura, who's also in the history department, teaches courses on modern American history, social movement, civil rights, and she directs the program in women, gender, and sexuality studies. I'll add here that one staff member who I love often refers to me as her second favorite Puwaka on campus. and I get it. I was actually joking with my wife this morning that if she knew my two children, I'd probably be the fourth favorite. So the point I guess I'm trying to make here is that my family is all in on CNU. Like my colleagues, we're totally invested in its success. Like my colleagues, we've chosen to make our lives here. And like my colleagues, we couldn't be more committed to the university's mission. To repeat the phrase as a bit of an incantation, Laura and I are captains for life. So please understand, and this is what I'm kind of trying to encourage you to think about, more than anybody, my faculty colleagues have a deep passion for this place, and I urge you to view us as a resource and as a partner. Before closing my remarks, I'd like to express my gratitude to a few really wonderful folks on behalf of the faculty. First, to President Thompson, thank you for your leadership this year. Adelia, I know I speak for all my colleagues when I say that your kindness, your optimism, and your humility have been inspiring. Second, I'd like to express my gratitude to our rector, Lindsay, as well. Thank you for your willingness to engage with the faculty and to involve the board even more in the life of our campus. The April reception at the Alumni House was a great event. I really enjoyed it. I know my colleagues did. I hope that it becomes a feature of our academic year. Third, I'd like to express my gratitude to a couple of the previous Senate presidents who I know you all have heard speak in previous years for their remarkable leadership during the pandemic. Tatiana, now Dean Rizova, got handed a pandemic in the first year of her term, And as you know, my immediate predecessor, Rachel Holland, grappled with it during her 2 years as president. I'd also like to add Jana, now Dean Adamitis, to that list as well, especially because of her leadership on the crisis response team. Their tireless efforts to make our campus safe, our classes successful, and our students still feel welcome allowed us to thrive in really the most trying circumstances. I have big shoes to fill, but I'm delighted to know I can rely on them for help and advice. I'm honored to call them my friends. So let me wrap my remarks up. It's not quite an audit report, I promise, with a promise for the coming year. I pledge to come to these meetings, or I'll have 4 more in my term, and speak honestly with you and openly with you about our faculty, their ideas, their concerns, and what's going on in our campus. Sometimes it may be more open and honest than some might like, but I say what I say and I do what I do, always in the spirit of making this place that we love even better. I will admit I have the best job in the world, and I know that. I encourage you to engage with me, ask me questions, or just strike up a conversation with me when we cross paths, whether it's out in the hallway, between meetings, at lunch, whatever. I look forward to working with you all this year, and I thank you for listening. So thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. I reiterate that I am so glad that you agreed to serve again, a second time around as the president of the Faculty Senate, and also want to thank you for the efforts you've already made to date in offering to serve as a sounding board, a liaison between the president's office and the faculty, and an advisor to President Kelly. And he has appreciated the outreach and is going to rely on that going forward. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Turning now to student government. You didn't know you'd have to wait so long for your turn. Student government report. Kate, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to officially be standing here as president of Student Government Association. But before I begin, I'd like to take the time to formally introduce myself, as we only met very briefly at the last Board of Visitors meeting. My name is Kate Bennett, and I'm a rising senior this year, which is really scary, studying political science, philosophy, and leadership. I'm hoping to go to law school after I graduate here from CMU, and somewhere along the line I plan to become president of the United States. I've been a member of the Student Government Association since my freshman year, and I'm ecstatic to have the chance to lead such a valuable organization. Students have returned home for their summer breaks, and I'll be the first to admit that I miss the usual livelihood of our campus. Nonetheless, the CNU spirit is still as strong as ever, as students are all about conducting research with the Summer Scholars Program, completing summer classes, training for orientation and athletics, working for local internships, and so much more. It's amazing to see that even with school out of session, students are drawn to staying and serving on this campus. Our student organizations are also hard at work with planning for the upcoming year. SGA has started preparing for our annual event, Light the Night, which is on track to be held on the night before the first day of classes. Traditionally, Light the Night is always held on this night as a way to celebrate what's to come, but COVID, weather, and plenty of other obstacles have been thrown our way, and this hasn't been able to happen on time for the past 3 years. I'm really eager to watch this tradition be restored, along with many other campus traditions that we've lost to the pandemic over the years. The Campus Activities Board recently hosted their member retreat, which gave the group a great chance to go away for the weekend and bond and collaborate on plans for the future. Panhellenic and the Interfraternity Council are also preparing for their upcoming recruitment season by making sure a number of improvements ensure that potential new members have the chance to receive as much information and network with as many chapters as possible. Our Greek life organizations are also at the height of planning their annual event, Greek Stock. Various other organizations have begun their brainstorming process for fall programming as well. This summer, I've also been granted amazing opportunities to detail and describe the student perspective in a number of important circumstances. I not only serve as one of just 3 students on the Title IX committee that was recently formed, but I was also asked to be vice chair of this committee. Students have been responding extremely positively to the work that is being done by the committee, and it's clear that they feel moved by the university's willingness to amplify student voices in this way. Excitement is also starting to buzz around the student body for Admiral Kelly's upcoming inauguration, as we're hopeful for the future and eager to get to know the incoming administration. Finally, setting sail is just around the corner, and I'll be speaking on a number of student life panels during these sessions. I'm really looking forward to welcoming the new students and families to campus and hopefully providing some guidance on how to navigate life as a college student. Overall, it's clear that the usual busybodiness of CNU students doesn't even stop for summer break. Our guest student speaker today is the perfect example of this. Ashley Sanfason is a rising senior from Midlothian, Virginia, studying history, leadership, and also volunteering with the Boys and Girls Club. Ashley has a number of involvements, including being student director of PLP Initiatives, president of the Newport Pearls, a leadership adventure facilitator, and a member of Greek Life and the Leadership Honor Society. Her experience with and dedication to this campus is extraordinary, and somehow she manages to juggle it all perfectly. With that, thank you all for listening to my report, and please join me in welcoming Ashley to speak about her student experience.
Hello everyone, as Kate mentioned, my name is Ashley Sampason and I'm a rising senior here at Christopher Newport University, double majoring in history and leadership studies. During my senior year of high school, I was heavily involved in a community musical theater organization. 8 members of that organization have chosen to attend CNU the year before I did, which allowed me to visit campus very frequently during the beginning of my senior year. I fell in love with CNU early on and ended up applying early decision, knowing it was the best place for me. In the winter of that same year, I was invited to an event at the Jefferson Hotel to hear President Paul Tribble speak and get to know the admissions staff a little better. I was heavily encouraged by some of my friends who are currently attending CNU to go, even being told that no matter what I did, I needed to stand in line to meet Paul Tribble after he gave his speech. My mom stood in line for me while I went around the room and spoke to all the admissions staff in attendance. I spoke to Kelly Scallion, the admission officer who had interviewed me for CNU and the President's Leadership Program, followed by Lynn McMullen, who had assisted me with my application. During that conversation, Kelly took the time to look at my application and share that I had been admitted into the university. I remember feeling so overwhelmed by excitement, but also relief at knowing I found my home. The admissions staff intentionality made me feel so welcomed into this school. After receiving this individualized attention from admission, I knew I'd be receiving the same from my professors and other staff members when I arrived on campus. While I was incredibly excited to begin my college journey, the transition into CNU was surprisingly difficult for me. I was in the high school class of 2020, so I lost the end of my senior year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I fell into a very isolated place because the closure that I had been looking forward to and needed for my pre-college experiences was something I knew I would never really get. Additionally, as an only child whose parents were still working because they were considered a part of essential businesses, I often found myself alone. I came into college incredibly introverted and, to be honest, mad at the world. This, combined with health and safety regulations that limited on-campus activities and interactions, led me to feeling closed off during that first semester. I returned home for winter break, determined to make a change, realizing that I could not continue feeling this way if I wanted to make the most of my college experience. Before COVID had hit its peak at the start of my freshman year, I had been heavily considering joining a cappella in order to keep music in my life. However, through my first semester, I felt my love for music waning, as I fell into that dark place that I've been talking about. Over winter break, though, I made the decision to submit my online audition. I knew that I needed to pull myself together and join something that I would ultimately grow to enjoy again. During the spring semester, I was accepted into the Newport Pearls all-female a cappella group. I remember being so nervous at first, but I quickly made friends and became more comfortable among everyone. By the end of the semester, I applied to be the public relations manager for the Pearls, and I got the position, my first time experiencing leadership in college. Something I never realized was just how many doors would open when I joined the a cappella community. Through relationships that I built in the Pearls and my leadership position, I found myself also working as the public relations manager for the Women's Leadership Summit, which is one of the biggest student-run annual conferences that we have here at CNU. Through both of these public relations positions, I learned technical skills like graphic and website design, marketing strategies, and merchandising. And I developed self-confidence and an ability to advocate for myself, and an understanding of the importance of healthy boundaries. The Pearls also inspired me to join a sorority, Gamma Phi Beta, in the spring of 2022. Through GPhi, I became a part of the family line that holds a very special place in my heart. One of the most interesting things about this family line is that not only are we connected through the sorority, but also through Pearls. My grand big, Claire Rooney, was the president of Pearls during my freshman year. Her little, my big, was president of Pearls during my sophomore and junior years. And now, I'm following in their footsteps as I was elected president of the Newport Pearls for my upcoming senior year. Through each of my involvements, I've been able to expand my connections within this campus. Several of my new sorority sisters have previously served as leadership adventure facilitators for the President's Leadership Program, and they all encouraged me to apply. I submitted my application and was offered the position, and this led to the highlight of my summer as a rising junior. I was able to make new connections among my fellow facilitators, my students, and the staff members of the President's Leadership Program. Being a facilitator also opened my eyes to what I wanted to do once I graduated.
Originally, I intended to get my master's in teaching through CNU's MAT program. However, through my involvements, I realized that I was becoming more and more interested in the higher education track. I had fallen in love with working with college students and admissions staff members. This love led me to have a small mid-college identity crisis, which I worked through with PLP Assistant Director Victoria Carrico, as I decided what I really wanted to do with my life. This resulted in my choice to switch my leadership minor to leadership major and pursue new opportunities to explore what a career in higher ed might look like. Later that year, I became Student Director of the President's Leadership Program Initiatives, which is the title I currently hold. As Student Director, I am tasked with creating the leadership adventure experience that I participated in both as a student and as a facilitator for this incoming class of 2027. I interviewed and hired facilitators, developed detailed training sessions, and created an engaging and informational leadership adventure that will set the tone for the incoming class of freshmen. And it all starts next week. They all move in on Sunday. So additionally, as Student Director, I've had the opportunity to network through experiences such as meeting with high-ranking members of the Secretary of Education's office, having lunch with incoming CNU President Bill Kelly and his wife, participating in conferences such as the Global Followership Conference, and assisting with events such as Admitted Freshman Day and CNU Open Houses. I've even been able to interview prospective students to see if they would fit in with the PLP and honors programs. Throughout my CNU journey, I've come to realize that I love the college environment, but more than that, I love creating programs and events that enhance the college experience and help students find their home. For this reason, I will be applying to graduate programs in the fall to get my master's in higher education, specifically focusing on the administrative side. I am also considering applying for a fellowship here at CNU. This is not the path I thought I would be on when I came to CNU, but it is the path I know is best for me. I began my freshman year a completely different person than I am now. It is so interesting for me to look back at old memories and pictures and to literally see the changes that I went through since joining the CNU community. I've become incredibly extroverted, extremely involved, and I just love everything about CNU. Pearls has given me back my love for singing, as well as lifelong friendships that I am forever thankful for. The PLP staff has helped me to shape my college journey and my future paths, showing me the kind of person I can and want to be. CNU has made me the person I am today, and I know that it will continue to shape my life as I go through my final year at my favorite place. Thank you all for allowing me to speak today.
Kate and Ashley, thank you. Thank you for being most impressive, but more importantly, thank you for being inspirational. The people around this table give a lot of time and effort and resources to this place, but it is because of you. It is none of us ever hesitate to show up when we're called upon because we want to do everything we can to support you while you're here and in the future. And we look forward to watching you walk across stage next year. We look forward to seeing what your future holds. We look forward to voting for you, ma'am. We have had one student sit in that seat, and he wanted to be the president of Christopher Newport when Kenneth kid. But we have never had a future president of the United States. So thank you. Thank you both. Yes. If we could just take a brief pause and take a breath for a moment, we have a special guest joining us.
I'm just as sorry as you are.
You know, I still need to work here.
12 years ago, this place was graced with a young lady from Alabama who joined us as the Vice President for University Advancement. She led our first ever comprehensive campaign while also building an advancement program that didn't exist at the time. She would serve this university as a source of dependable, sustainable revenue to meet needs and opportunities, current and future. Paul Tribble hired her because of her ability to build relationships. Build them, care for them, deliver on them, and meet people where they are, hug them, and help them be a better person for knowing her. He then decided during his transition that he needed a chief of staff, and he selected Adelia Thompson for that role. The reason he chose that is because he needed someone who could help him focus outward to our constituencies. Someone who had already built those relationships, could maintain those relationships during a very uncertain time in our university, because no one knew what this university was going to look like without Paul Tribble. But we had a steady face who showed up, put her tennis shoes on, and she kept running ahead and loved everyone in the process. And it's for that reason that he selected her as interim president, Adelia Thompson. So for those reasons, if you would indulge me, I'd like to read a resolution now. This is a resolution of appreciation from the Board of Visitors of Christopher Newport University for Adelia Patrick Thompson. Whereas Adelia Patrick Thompson, interim president of Christopher Newport University, is an accomplished higher education executive with over 30 years of advancement and administrative experience, and has made major contributions to the university and its constituencies. And whereas Ms. Thompson has held positions across arts and humanities organizations, including the Alabama Symphony Orchestra and the Alabama Humanities Foundation. And whereas Ms. Thompson served as an advancement executive for Agnes Scott College, the CDC Foundation, and Birmingham Southern College. And whereas Ms. Thompson joined Christopher Newport in 2011 as the Vice President of Advancement and led the institution's first comprehensive campaign, Defining Significance. With her leadership and direction, Christopher Newport exceeded the campaign's goal by over $20 million, raising a total of $66 million. And whereas on October 1st, 2020, Ms. Thompson was appointed to serve as the university's Chief of Staff. And whereas on October 16th, 2021, Ms. Thompson was appointed as Acting Chief Executive Officer and successfully led the university during President Paul Tribble's 6-month leave of absence. And whereas President Tribble announced his retirement from the presidency to be effective on August 1, 2022, and Ms. Thompson was appointed by the Board of Visitors to serve as interim president from August 1, 2022 until June 30, 2023. And whereas Ms. Thompson successfully led Christopher Newport during the year when the search for a new president was conducted and concluded with the hiring of Rear Admiral William G. Kelly, who will assume his duties on July 1, 2023. And whereas Ms. Thompson led the university through this interim year with grace, wisdom, courage, care, and commitment, all the while ensuring that the students, faculty, and staff of the university never took their foot off the gas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in light of her remarkable service to the Commonwealth of Virginia and Christopher Newport University, the Board of Visitors of Christopher Newport hereby expresses its admiration and deep appreciation to Interim President Thompson for a job well done, ma'am. Thank you.
She'll probably be very quiet. I'm not sure I'll keep the train.
Well, the only thing that I would add to that eloquent resolution is I never want to hear you say I'm just the girl in the middle anymore. You are now a former president of an institution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Closed session and break?
Yes, yes. We're going to go ahead and go into closed session and we'll take a 5-minute break.
Oh, motion please.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Thanks.
resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered by the Board of Visitors. Ms. Dale, please poll the board.
Dr. Carney Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Hatton?
Yes.
Mr. Cast?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Morton?
Yes.
Mr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Tillett?
Yes.
Dr. Freeland stepped out. And Ms. Lawson?
Yes. Thank you, Amy. Resolution 4 came at the recommendation of the Academic Affairs Committee during closed session. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution as presented in closed session?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. There is no second needed because it came out of committee. Did you vote?
Oh, nice.
I don't think you said my name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Meadows.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, okay, the motion is passed. Okay. All right, real quick, housekeeping. At your seat, you have the President's inaugural week schedule. Please take that with you. We will go ahead and give you advance notice of where we would ask board members to participate. Certainly, you don't have to participate in everything, but we'll let you know where we would like you to attend to support Bill and Angie Kelly. Before we leave, I would just like to thank once again Bobby for your service on the board, as well as Steve Cast. Thank you both for all of your service to this institution. We know you may be not at this table any longer, but you're not going anywhere. So thank you. Christy, we are still waiting with bated breath about the reappointment, so more to come on that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and stand adjourned.
Bye, Terry. John, you can't leave.
What? We have
We're
to
not
do
done, man.
the review.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
And actually,
I'm gonna start out.
You too, enjoyed it.
My office, there you go. Thanks.
I will. It doesn't work, so boom, down.
I was like, there's a, I was like, recommending that.